Hi, my name is Abhay Deol, and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.
It's always exciting and very, very interesting to talk to Abhay Deol. And after a million Zoom call interviews, we are finally back to talking one on one. Pleasure having you back with us
It really feels like a million
on Bollywood.
Zoom calls, doesn't it?
And that too, like I think across continents and all
Yeah,
that, because
I know
you were
time
in
zones as
US or
well.
something. Yeah,
It's been quite a time for everybody on the planet. What an event
of course.
to have every person on the planet affected by the same thing. I think it's fascinating in a way.
Right,
It's never happened in human history.
right. And the moment it seemed to be slowing down, the
It
world
picks up
got
again.
no, the world got embroiled in a war
Oh,
that is
that.
impacting everyone.
See, that's the thing. The world was never not at war. It's right now it's Russian aggression towards Ukraine, but Yemen's been at war too, with the Saudis and the Americans attacking them. So it just depends on which media do you watch and which war gets more dramatically highlighted.
Right.
So let's not just talk about Ukraine. There's war all over the world from a long time. The Middle East has been at it for a long time. Africa too. That's not new.
Of course. All right. Okay. Now so your next project is Jungle Cry. It's very interesting that you've developed this credibility around you. Maybe this in a way persona around you that if you get associated with any project, that project suddenly gains attention. You know that if Abhay Deol is associated with it, that there must be something in it. What exactly is there in it? Do you at times feel that more than your acting, it's the fact that your choices are so unique that they get more talked about
I
in a way as
don't.
well?
I don't know. I definitely have been asked this many a time told this many a time that if I'm in a film, then that film must be good. I feel pressure when I hear that because film is not an individual's making. A team makes a movie. It's not just the director. It's not just the actor. It's not just the editor. It's not just the DOP. It's everybody that makes that movie. And so it's not up to me for a film to come out good or bad. But yes, because I've chosen films that have done well or that at least tried to give you something new, there is that expectation each time I pick up a movie. And as far as acting versus the product is concerned, I've never highlighted myself. In fact, early years of my career, I used to run away from marketing myself, giving publicity to me. I used to always say the project should be the one put up front, the work should speak for itself. I should not be highlighting me. So there's an element of that, which is why I always put the film before me. And that's also a result of that. Like I said, don't even give me any attention. Just look at the movie, look at the director. Don't look at me. I'm just a piece of that jigsaw puzzle. So I think that's also a part of that.
That's absolutely right. So you go out on a limb to support a project. All sorts of I think filmmakers, maybe other people, they may not be supporting them the way you do, and I don't think that there can be any other actor maybe who can go with a bruised eye to an event to bring attention to the fact that there's certain things that are happening
Yeah.
to his film which maybe are not right.
Yeah.
So there is a certain passion that you bring to the table, which is unique, and as you rightly said, it's for the project always,
Yeah.
which makes it unique.
It's funny you say that because how do you support a project? Is it like how I'm doing now, showing up and doing the marketing and everything that's required for it? Because back in the day when I first started, I thought that I don't want any attention on me. So while I'd made those movies and I put my full 100% into it, whether it was supporting the product, the story, getting finance for it, finding a director for it, going the distance to perform for it, I would not show up for marketing it because I thought, no, that's wrong. Because I believed that would take away from the product. So on that superficially, and I've been gaslit enough times by people in the industry and directors I worked with, seemed almost like, oh, I don't care. And I used to think, what do you mean? Like, unlike all the other actors, I don't even want to be a star. I don't want any attention on me. I'm letting you have it for yourself, not realizing that, well, the system is such that the presence of you gives that film that much more attention. And I just thought that was vulgar. Like, why should I bring the attention? The project should bring the attention to itself. The director's work should be the thing talked about. Don't talk about me. Like, that was my interpretation of supporting a project. But on the surface, it almost looked like I was not supportive of it. And then later on, I had to come and embrace the fact, oh, it's okay. It's okay for you to publicize yourself. It's okay for you to show up and be the star. It doesn't mean you've sold your soul.
Correct.
And actually that helps the product. And what you ideally think helps the product is an ideal, which in an idealistic situation should be and would be, but we don't live in an ideal world.
Right. So when we talk about Jungle Cry, one can look at it from this point of view, that it's based on, say a realistic event and it's rugby, Indian context. But what has become synonymous with you as well, that you choose subjects which surprise people. That if we look back at the entire filmography, there is too much of diversity. So
Too much? A little too much? You don't want that much?
No, I love it.
I'm kidding.
But I think it's
I'm
your
kidding,
choice.
I'm kidding.
So what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
that for me personally, as a viewer, I'm looking at the context of Jungle Cry. And why is it that this guy must have chosen it?
Okay. So
Okay. So because ultimately it's a story that you're relating to. People can have different reasons for watching any content whatsoever. But as far as you're concerned, you choose different maybe contexts, and that makes it interesting as stories for the matter. Has there been like a conscious sort of decision for you to be different, or has it just happened organically?
Actually, I get these certain questions asked all the time. And we were talking about earlier about how it gets tiring, perhaps, because you're repeating yourself. But these questions are never tiring because I'm always fascinated why I am still such an enigma. Because for me, it's very simple to answer that, which is that I'm only doing what, and I guess people don't have I had the luxury or the privilege to be able to do it, and people don't have that, is I do the things I believe in. Like if I think, okay, this is something I believe in, it's not about good or bad. It's coming in and holding. It's authentic to me. I'm authentic to it, and it is authentic to me, and that's why I do it. There's no deliberate, reason to prove a point, to give a message. None of that actually factors into my thinking. It's like when you walk into a shop and you pick that product which you find attractive because you like it. You're not picking it up because you're trying to say, oh, this is me, this defines me. No, you're saying like, oh, I like the color, I like the fit. Those are my reasons. Never a conscious decision to say something or prove something, no. But it comes across like that because I was consistent. And I think that's the other thing, is the consistency perhaps has made people ask this question over and over again, because I didn't move from the position I was in. I was pretty rigid in that, so to speak. I'm a lot more open and fluid now because it's a changing world. But I joined this industry in an environment where they were really rigid. And I guess, no, a hero has to look like this, a film has to be like that, this is the formula. And so I became rigid myself. I was like, no, a hero does not have to be like this. A formula does not have to be, and so I had to hold on to my rigidity to fight other rigidity, so to speak. And now that they're opening up a little bit, 10, 12 years later, I'm also a little bit more open because I realize, okay, now they're open to me, or the ideas that I had. Even if not me, but at least the ideas that I had, they are open to. And so now I'm open to them. You see what I mean?
Okay, so since you started with, say, a director like Imtiaz Ali, like a very fine writer as well, was it like a good start in a way? Because Imtiaz has his own thoughts. He believes in what he does, and he likes experimenting, and yet he's mainstream, and yet he's offbeat. Was it like a good start in a way? Socha na tha?
It's a weird question. Did you like the movie?
I think everyone did.
Then it was a good start.
Yeah. In terms of the sort of choices that you made over the years, and in terms of being like a clutter breaker, or maybe how you did not want to follow the formula.
Yeah.
So I'm saying from that context.
I'm not. Ask your question clearly. Are you saying that do I regret my choices?
No. I'm not. Did the start happen on a positive note, and maybe that emboldened you in making the sort of choices that you did thereon?
Was it a positive start, you're asking? I loved Socha Na Tha. I still do. I wouldn't have, if I had to redo it all over again, I would still do that film as my first film. Clearly, it's a positive note. As far as um, my experiences have been ever since then, and the journey I've taken, it's been a response to my way of thinking and being. And that's true for all of us. If your question is, do I have any notions now, whether that was positive or negative, in retrospect, you can bring all sorts up. This is positive, that was not. This is negative, that was not. The question is, would you do it all over again exactly the way you did it? And if I didn't do what I did back then, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I'm very happy with who I am today and how
Absolutely,
I think.
absolutely.
So it's not as simple as positive or negative. It's about embracing who you've been and what you've done. Do I have any guilt? I don't live with guilt. Because I've always been, whether right or wrong, I've always been transparent. So is it negative that I was wrong at times? No, we're only human.
Okay, so talking about Jungle Cry, what is the motivation for doing the film? Do you also follow like a gut instinct while reading a script, and you feel like that maybe this is something that I want to do?
I always follow gut instinct. It's gut. Like I remember when I met Dibakar Foy, Lucky, I hadn't seen his first film at that time, and he just gave me a pitch. My gut said, do it. I knew nothing about him, about his work. I just liked the guy. I liked his idea. So it was the gut speaking. It was similar with Imtiaz. So I do go with the gut. With Jungle Cry too, it was similar. Of course, by the time Jungle Cry came along, it had been a long time since I was in the industry. And going by your gut seemed like a luxury by then. So a lot of it was, all right, what is the story about? I liked the script. I liked Sagar. What is he trying to say? It checked all the boxes for me. It was interesting. The character was interesting. It was a world, I think, fact that it's a true story. And I didn't know about it. I didn't know about these kids from tribal backgrounds. I didn't know about Dr. Samantha starting this amazing institute which houses these tribal kids, gives them food, shelter, clothing, education, and how these kids went from there, were actually trained in football, but had 3 months to train in rugby, and literally went and won the World Cup in that time.
Right.
So I thought this is fascinating, and it's sad that I don't know this and that the country doesn't know it. It kind of highlights the fact that we tend to focus only on one or two things in this country. Okay, there's cricket and there's Bollywood. It's like, no, there's a whole host of diversity this country has and communities. Just look at sport even, and maybe perhaps attention there would inspire other sportsmen of other sports to do better, to play better, and to get better infrastructure, better services. And those were all the things that ran through my mind when I read the script.
All right. Okay, and I believe it got a standing ovation in Wales.
I believe so too.
And
I wasn't there.
You wasn't there.
I was traveling. I couldn't make it, unfortunately. But yes, I heard that they loved it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're looking forward to its release?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I was going to say always every film. Then I realized, wait a minute, not always every film, but this one I am.
Right. So now, with your sort of experience, do you in hindsight just think about the fact that quite a few of your films, if they would have had like a direct, like say OTT release, for example, they would have had like a far bigger audience. And the fact is that the way good projects they're marketed as well, without any biases, which is fantastic as well. And there is no prejudice anymore that. Because earlier it used to be that if a film released on satellite directly instead of having like a big screen release, it used to be looked at that maybe kuch film mein kami hogi is wajah se directly satellite. Now you can't even talk about that because there are movies which are doing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And there's no language barrier. You can have like a Malayalam film and it can do exceptionally well, say in 30 countries it can be trending. Do you find that like a fascinating phase in a way?
Well, technology is the great disruptor. So I was in any case disrupting Bollywood by throwing in the films I was making back in the day when I started and ideas that I was throwing at them. It was disruptive, which is why I got such a reaction that was somewhat strong against it, because no one established what a disruption, because things are good the way they're going. Why do you want to disrupt it? And then technology comes along and does the same thing. So for me, I was like, oh, great. Now I have some support. It was on my own at one time, and now looks like the infrastructure for disruption is here. and people like myself might be embraced for who they are and not be shaped and honed to what the powers that be want them to be.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Right. So, you said that you didn't want to be a star, and you wanted the project to be highlighted. An interesting part is like when we see the way the OTT platforms are functioning, they are highlighting the writers. They are making stars out of actors, for example, and because it is etched so beautifully that the characters they become very popular. Do you in a way find it fascinating? Do you find that writing it's getting its due now?
Definitely much more than before. I mean, you have to know this fact, which is the writing department within, let's just say, Bollywood, was always just treated like a stepchild. Because the trend mostly, especially in the 80s and 90s, was like they were just. The term Bollywood came about because it was sort of almost derogatory to say, oh, they copy Hollywood all the time. We all know this. That's why the term Bollywood. It's Bombay and it tries to be like Hollywood, so it's Bollywood. Like that's where it came from. I've been on sets growing up because I mean I grew up from a film family, and I remember being on set sometimes where I've literally seen them write the dialogue on set, because there was just the formula and there was only so much you could do. So writing was never inspired, never invested in, because it was formula. I mean, how many ways can you say the same story? Which is why we lacked good writers for a long time, because they were expected to conform to market dynamics. They weren't expected to go against that, come up with ideas that you wouldn't necessarily see in a movie, which is why someone like myself, when I was coming up with ideas, and when I was narrating Dev D to people as an idea before I went to Anurag, people were like, "Ye to art film hai, koi dekhne nahi aayega," because it just was not conforming. So yes, today, when you have shows like a Delhi Crime, for example, you see that the writing is integral, the structure is important, and oh wow, there's something to a good writer. Like, it actually works for the project. And I'm like, good morning. So it's the background we come from. We never encouraged and invested in our writers. We just expected them to deliver the same formula every time. Now we're saying, all right, drop the formula with the OTT platforms. I mean, Bollywood is still, and it's fine, there is a market for Bollywood, and it's nice to see them kind of just improve upon the same thing, and they are. But it's nice to also have the alternative, because my thing has always been, do what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that allow people like myself to do what we are capable of doing at the same time as you. Because that's when you have a little bit of diversity and choices for people. They can choose to watch this and not that.
Right. So you're mentioning Bollywood, but we are in a very interesting space right now that some of the biggest pan-Indian films they're from South India, and they're doing exceptionally well. We also have some very finely written films, like say for example Jai Bhim, for example, in Tamil, or say Minnal Murali in Malayalam. So many more films in Malayalam. Actors like Fahad Fasil, for example, they're doing exceptional work. So it's no more. I think South was always there, but maybe I think because
Always
of the last 2 years and the entire pandemic element, that it's moving around much more freely, and it's people are accepting it much more.
Yeah.
So I think there's much more to Indian cinema than Bollywood.
See, Bollywood is a part of Indian cinema. That's what you have to understand. People make the mistake of saying Indian cinema, they think Bollywood. No. The term Indian cinema means cinema from India.
Right.
Bollywood is a part of that. And that answers your question. So is Tamil cinema. So is Bengali cinema. So is Punjabi cinema. That's Indian cinema. And Bollywood is from the city of Bombay, or was called Bombay. And it's in the language of Hindi. And is a part of that family of Indian cinema. As you said, the South Indian film industry has always existed and has always had their audience. It's just that if you're from the North and you speak Hindi, you're watching news related to that. You're just not watching the news related to something outside of it. And so, you're ignorant of that existence. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Similarly, somebody from the South might not watch Hindi cinema and is ignorant of the Hindi stars, because they have their own. So they've always coexisted. And as we were saying earlier, technology is a great disruptor. So now we are embracing a much larger Indian identity than just the regional one. Because you could say Bollywood is regional too in some ways.
Correct.
It appeals to the Hindi belt, you know.
Right.
Tamil cinema appeals to the South Indian belt. Millions watch it, you know.
Right.
So now there's a bit of mishmash happening because you realize, oh wow, Bahubali looks great. Let's watch it. And oh, this actor is interesting.
Right.
Let's invest in him. Let's put him in a different language movie. Let's take him from Tamil cinema and put him in Hindi cinema, and vice versa.
Have you been offered any film down south?
I've done a film South.
Okay.
I played the villain. I can't. Like it was really tough for me to learn. Like I couldn't just rattle off anything. I had to say the words. I actually wanted to dub for myself, but apparently they said my accent was too strong. And I was like, but he's a North Indian. Let there be an accent. Because I worked really hard in getting my words, and I'm actually mouthing the words and actually speaking the words. It's just that they wanted to dub it, and that is how the dub works because I'm actually saying the words. But they just felt that the accent was too strong. But I was like, you approached me as a North Indian, and you have me playing a North Indian, so why can't I have an accent? So that put me off. I was like, no, if I can't use my own voice, I'm not going to do it again because I'll make the effort in learning the language, which I did.
Right. And would you want to maybe do like a Malayalam film or something? If
Sure, I'm open. I'm not closed to the idea of experimenting. But when you skip from one language to the other, it's not easy. You know, you need to put in that time and energy. If I had that time, I would give it.
Now, when you work with someone like Debakar Banerjee, two films, Oilaki and Shanghai, for example, both are very, very different characters, you know? Yeah. It's like diametrically different characters. Yeah. How's the experience of working in such different worlds with the same director?
That's the one exciting thing about Debakar. The fact that he saw me in Oilaki as that character, and then he saw me in Shanghai as that character, completely. We were just talking about North cinema and South cinema. I mean, that's literally the difference between the two. It's a North character and a South character. And he's always had that faith that I would pull it off. He had a vision for me. I fit in that vision of his. And I'm a trooper. Like, I never say never. You know, let me throw something at me first. I'd never say no immediately. Just throw it at me, and then I'll see. And if your vision is pure and authentic, which his was, I'll go along with it. I'm more than likely to go with it than not. And in that sense, Debakar always had that faith in me.
You also have had a very, very interesting journey in terms of that you go to New York and you do some random course over there and then you do a film. So there is no pattern to the way you have functioned. I was just having it's a very strange sort of parallel in a way that I was thinking of. Say Dilip Kumar Saab. He did very selected films, but he was always educating himself. You know, he was a very voracious reader, very fine Urdu and poetry and all that stuff. As a creative person, how important has that self-learning part for you, and how has that contributed to you being an actor and a creative person?
Well, if you take self-learning by itself, on its own, right, it's something I feel everybody should do. You don't have to be in a creative field to learn.
Of course.
You should learn regardless.
Of course.
Because it expands your own human condition.
Right.
So whether you're a welder or an actor, it'll help both. It'll start to show in your work. It'll start to show up in your relationships. And so that's something I think everybody should do if they have the privilege for it. If I was to speak specifically for somebody in the creative field, what learning does, from the perspective of an actor, let's say, or even a director or a writer, just film as a medium, it opens up your worldview. And when you are in a medium that is literally telling stories, literally portraying people, you better have a bigger knowledge of the human condition to portray a character, whether it's a political situation or a historical one for telling a story. Understanding of the culture so that you don't miss the nuances as a storyteller, as a director, or as an actor.
Right.
So sure, yeah.
Okay, you know, for someone who has done diverse films, who has been like, you know, you said that I don't want to be a hero, and you have some really cool songs to your credit.
I know I do, right?
Really cool songs.
I ran away from them, yet they keep coming back for me.
Yes, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate.
Which is your personal favorite?
Favorites are always hard, you know. different songs for different reasons. Like, Oi Lucky Lucky Oi always puts me in a good mood. Emotional Atyachar always works when I feel like venting. Senorita is great to play when I just want to let my hair down and have fun. So it's hard to have favorites.
Lari Chuti as well.
Lari Chuti is very poetic. You know, when you're feeling a bit poetic, so to speak, like nostalgic.
Rapid fire with Abhay Deol. What one life lesson you think everyone can get from Jungle Cry?
Diversity.
Diversity.
Embrace diversity.
Embrace diversity. All right. What does a game of rugby teach you?
Wow. Plotting and scheming.
If you were to form a rugby team from Bollywood, which three actors will definitely be part of it?
Oh, me, Farhan, and Hrithik. Oh, can I include that myself in that? Or somebody
Of course, why not?
Okay,
Of course, why not? Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara Part 2 types.
Playing rugby.
A personality trait of yours that sometimes works in your favor and sometimes just doesn't work in your favor.
Being authentic.
If you were to star in a biopic, whose biopic would you wish to do?
Nikolai Tesla.
What's something in your life that you're most grateful for?
Family.
Great. What do you think we can do to make sure that parallel cinema also does great business at the box office?
Be more democratic.
In terms of cinema halls?
In giving opportunity.
Giving opportunities. Okay, interesting. Okay. Bollywood industry before pandemic and Bollywood industry today, what is the biggest change that you noticed?
The biggest change that I've noticed in that in Bollywood. Forced to embrace change.
What, according to you, is something which is unfair in the film industry?
Endorsing fairness creams.
Endorsing fairness creams.
It's quite unfair.
Right. Anything? any other endorsements that you think they're not cool?
You asked me one question for rapid fire and you got that answer.
Kabir Khan recently said in an interview that maybe we need big spectacle movies to attract audiences to cinema halls. Do you agree with that?
Sure, yeah. A big spectacle always helps in the cinemas.
How does Abhay Deol manage to stay away from controversies?
Keep to myself.
What is something, if any Bollywood superstar says, you think they're lying?
They never lie. They're always truthful. I never lie.
All right.
That was completely true.
What one thing you think stars should stop pretending about?
Pretending about that they like each other? I'm being facetious here.
Okay. If you were to gift a t-shirt to following people with a quote written on them, what would you write on following people's t-shirt? Emily Shaw.
Beauty with brains.
Farhan Akhtar.
Poet and filmmaker.
Katrina Kaif.
Gorgeous and fun.
Gorgeous and fun.
And fun.
All right. Anurag Kashyap.
Gaslighter.
Gaslighter. Shah Rukh Khan.
The king.
Did you ever have this wish that audience should clap and whistle on your entry?
Did I have this wish?
Yeah.
I didn't, but I think secretly I did.
Would you say too much emphasis on box office business is killing the essence of cinema?
That's not just Bollywood, that's everywhere, yes.
Everywhere, okay.
If it's just about the business and not about the creativity, sure.
Nawazuddin Siddiqui recently said in an interview that actors should stay away from politics. Do you agree with him?
It depends. Person to person, actor to actor. There are those who shouldn't and there are those who should.
Are you fine with Bollywood remaking so many South films?
Sure, why not?
Do you regret doing any film in your career so far?
Learn from my mistakes, so no.
All right, Abhay Deol, as always, wonderful talking to you.
Thank
you very much for your time. Congratulations for Jungle Cry, and I hope that it's received very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all we have from Bollywood Hungama. Keep on watching.
Hi, my name is Abhay Deol and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.